Good morning, students. Hope all of you are fine. This lecture is also in continuation of Theme-9, and name of this chapter is Kings and Chronicles. And in yesterday lecture, we discussed about the paintings and the Akbarnama and Badshahnama, right? So today we will discuss about the ideal kingdom. As you can see that its subtopic is given a divine light. It means the ruler of Mughal kingdom, they were considered as the god, as they were getting the direct light from God. So the chronicles drew upon many sources to show that the power of the Mughal kings came directly from God, which was known as the divine light. One of the legends they narrated was that the Mongol queen Alenquer, who was impregnated by a ray of sunshine while resting in her tent, and the offspring she bore carried this divine light, and the same divine light was passed on from generation to generation. Abul Fazl also placed Mughal kingship as the highest station in the hierarchy of objects receiving light from God. He was inspired by a famous Iranian Sufi, Shihabuddin Surawardi, who first developed this idea of divine light. According to this idea, there was a hierarchy in which the divine light was transmitted to the king, who then became the source of spiritual guidance for his subjects. And even the paintings that accompanied the narrative of the chronicles transmitted these ideas in a way that has left a long lasting impression on the minds of viewers. You can see this image, beta, this figure 9.5. Here we can see in this image, this painting by Abul Hasan shows Jahangir dressed in a resplendent clothes and jewels, holding up a portrait of his father Akbar. And Akbar, he is dressed in white, associated in Sufi traditions with the enlightened soul. He proffers a globe, and this globe, it was the symbol of dynastic authority. So in the Mughal Empire, there was no law laying down which of the emperor's son will be the next emperor. So it means that every dynastic change was accompanied by competing claims. So as this figure is given, this painting is mentioned. This was also showing the transfer of divine light. So the Mughal artists from the 17th century, they began to portray emperors wearing the halo, which they saw on European paintings of Christ and the Virgin Mary to symbolize the light of God. As you can see in this image also, in this Akbar portrait, in back side there is a circle and rays are coming from there. And this effect that was taken from the European paintings, just to symbolize the light of God. Now the next topic is a unifying force. Mughal chronicles present the empire as comprising many different ethnic and religious communities. Like so many different religion people used to live over there, like Hindus, Jains, Zoroastrians, Muslims. But as the source of all peace and stability, the emperor stood above all religious and ethnic group. Means above all these religious groups, the emperor has the supreme power. And even he just mediated among them and ensured that justice and peace prevailed. So Abul Fazl, he described the ideal of Sulhekul. Sulhekul means absolute peace. Means in the kingdom everywhere there should be peace. As the cornerstone of the enlightened rule. In Sulhekul, all religions and schools of thought had freedom of expression, but on condition that they did not undermine the authority of the state or fight among themselves. It means under this Mughal rule, all the religions they have freedom to express, but the condition was that they will not undermine the authority, they will not underestimate the authority, and they will not fight among themselves. So the ideal of Sulhekul was implemented through state policies. The nobility under the Mughals was a composite one comprising Iranis, Turanis, Afghans, Rajputs, and Deccanis. It means whatever subjects, court people were there, nobility were there, ministers were there in the Mughal Empire. They were Irani also, Turanis, Afghans, means they were from different areas, and all of whom were given positions and awards purely on the basis of their services. It means it was not a privileged class. They were just given all these designation just because of their service and loyalty to the king. Further, Akbar abolished the tax on pilgrimage in 1563 and jizya in 1564, as the two were based on religious discrimination. Because this jizya tax, it was charged from the Hindu pilgrims whenever they visited any pilgrimage. So Akbar abolished this tax because it was based on the religious discrimination. Instructions were sent to officers of the empire to follow the precept of Sulhekul in administration. It means everywhere in the administration, as we know that Mughal empire, it was very vast empire. So everywhere the instructions were sent just to accept the Sulhekul in administration. All Mughal emperors gave grants to support the building and maintenance of places of worship. Even when temples were destroyed during war, grants were later issued for their repair. As we know from the reigns of Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb. However, during the reign of the latter, the jizya was reimposed on the non-Muslim subjects. During the time of Aurangzeb, again the jizya tax was charged. Now the next topic is just sovereignty as social contract. Abul Fazl defined sovereignty as a social contract. The emperor protects the four essence of his subjects, namely life, jan, property, mal, honor, namus, and faith, din, and in return demands obedience and a share of resources. It means this rule was a social contract between the emperor and the people. As we have read that emperor protects the life of the subjects, property, honor and faith of the subject, and in return he demands obedience and the share of resources. Those can be the land taxes also. So only just sovereigns were thought to be able to honor the contract with power and divine guidance. Even a number of symbols were created for visual representation of the idea of justice, which came to stand for the highest virtue of Mughal monarchy. One of the favorite symbols used by artists was the motif of lion and the lamb peacefully nestling next to each other. As you know, if we see that lion and lamb, they cannot sit together, right? But in that, artists show the symbol that lion and lamb, they were peacefully nestling next to each other. So it was a great symbol of peace. This was meant to signify a realm where both the strong and the weak could exist in harmony. So, why the symbol was used of peace? Because according to this, in Mughal Empire, anyone who is weak or whether he is strong, they could exist in harmony. They can live peacefully over there. Court scenes from the illustrated Nama place such motifs in a niche directly below the emperor's throne. So beta, this was the topic for today. Hope all of you have understood the topic. Thank you and have a nice day.